This episode of Southeast Iowa Today is brought to you by Griner Auto Body of Washington, Iowa. Using state-of-the-art techniques and decades of experience to get your car back on the road after an accident. Car Doctor of Washington, Iowa. No matter who Frankensteined it, they can fix it, clean it, and customize it. McDonald Boneyard of Keota, Iowa. For all your farm equipment and auto recycling needs. Hinshaw Trailer Sales of Richland, Iowa. You need a trailer? They've got your trailer, and they can fix what they sell and don't in their full-time repair shop. Girling Repair of Winfield, Iowa. If your mower is dead, call Fred, your Husqvarna, Aaron's, and Gravely dealer. Fred also fixes and sells snowblowers. B&B Propane and the family of jet stops. Dutch Market and Coffee Talk of Washington, Iowa. Dutch Market can handle all of your grocery needs, and they even have a conference room you can use for free. Coffee Talk's drive-thru is open and ready to serve you coffee, energy drinks, sandwiches, baked goods, and ice cream. They all present the award-winning Southeast Iowa Today. Here's the author of Christie's Journey, The Beat Goes On, and your host, John Bain.
Thank you, announcer Cody Roy of NewEnglandDukes.com for your golden pipes and that wonderful introduction. Today is March 24th, 2025. I'm at the Jefferson County Courthouse in Fairfield, Iowa, where Sheriff Bart Richmond sits before the Board of Supervisors, and they decide whether or not to reimburse him $40,000 for attorney fees to get his name off the Brady-Giglio List. And I'm going to tell you right at the start, they did decide to reimburse him. 2 voted for, 1 voted against. Let's go on inside the Board of Supervisors.
Meet with Bart Richmond to discuss and consider legal fees and cost to taxpayers. Bart. Good morning. So that everybody knows, we met 2 weeks ago and had what I thought was an excellent discussion with folks and some, obviously this is a tough situation, but one of the things that we did was we tabled it 2 weeks ago to receive, I guess an opinion or ask ICAP, which is our insurance provider, which stands for Iowa Community Insurance Pool, whether or not they would cover the expense, and it is not in our policy. So the insurance company, I guess I would say technically denied the claim or would not. They would give us a formal statement or something in writing if we required it, but I didn't think that was necessary. So moving forward, we are back today. To further the discussion and to make a decision, and I think a decision needs to be made today. I've done, this is for board's information. I've done a lot of research. Doesn't necessarily delineate my position one way or the other, but I thought it was important to point out. And I appreciate Elizabeth, our assistant county attorney, and the information that she's provided. One of the things that she stated, and if I'm saying this wrong, correct me, public funds can only be used for public purpose. And so I felt, I had some questions as to what constitutes public purpose. And so I did some research, and this is information that I got from the Supreme Court, because this is in Article 3 of the state constitution. The Supreme Court said, and I'm quoting, "It will not find absence of public purpose except where such absence is so clear as to be perceptible by every mind at first blush." And that's a pretty broad door to walk through in terms of whether it's public purpose or not. It says the burdens of showing beyond a reasonable doubt a violation of the constitutional prohibition and of negating every conceivable basis supporting a governmental outlay apparently rest upon those persons alleging an unconstitutional outlay. And it said public purpose should not be construed narrowly, that it must have sufficient flexibility to meet the challenges of increasingly complex social, economic, and technological conditions. So I'm not an attorney, I'm just speaking from a layman's point of view. I do believe in reading that we have some flexibility regarding how we define it as a public purpose, or if we define it as a public purpose. That being said, just so you have that information. I would also add that if public funds were expended, or could be, or can be, or were be expended to remove the ability of the office of the sheriff and the sheriff, or the sheriff and the sheriff, to perform all of the duties and responsibilities of the office. Ergo, it would seem that you could use public funds to restore the ability of the sheriff to perform all the duties and responsibilities of the office. I don't think that they are mutually exclusive of each other in those terms. That being said, my position has not changed. I believe that this is a sad indeed that we're here, and I do believe it needs to end. It certainly doesn't need to be pursued. Now, that's my opinion. Here we are. I've given you information that I've researched. So let's have a discussion and make a decision.
You want to go first or me? All right. Better put my glasses on. I wrote stuff down so I'd remember it. It is unfortunate that this situation has arisen between two elected county officials. On Monday, March 3rd, at our weekly public meeting, there was discussion about Sheriff Richmond's attorney fees. During the discussion, I asked Assistant County Attorney for the hours and dollar amounts spent pursuing this legal matter. Assistant County Attorney indicated to me that she would get the information. That afternoon, I was contacted by County Attorney Molding to set up a meeting in his office. I arrived and discussion began. I voiced my opinion that all three county supervisors should be present to receive the same information. County Attorney Molding indicated he was going to meet with each one of us independently. I was presented with documents of court proceedings. At this meeting, I again asked for hours and money spent on this. I was informed that this was done after hours and on weekends and did not involve office staff. Since then, I have found out that the county attorney's office staff was involved in court proceedings. During the meeting, County Attorney Molding informed me that we cannot pay Sheriff Richmond's legal fees with taxpayer money. I responded that the county supervisors controlled the budget and how money was spent in the county. Later in the week, I received emails from County Attorney's office stating that taxpayer money should not be used for sheriff's legal fees. This is coming from office that started this whole mess we are in. Sheriff could not use county attorney's office for legal counsel, so was forced to seek outside legal counsel. At the meeting on March 10th, Supervisor Drayson Demmons stated that they had not met with County Attorney Molding after I had previously had. Over the past 2 weeks, I've been in contact with numerous county taxpayers that believe we should support Sheriff Richmond. Several comments were that this appears to be a personal attack on the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. Once again, I'm asking for hours and dollars spent on this issue to be presented to the Jefferson County Supervisors for review, and any future appeals cease immediately. And tail end of last week, I did seek outside legal counsel, and I think that there's some stuff that we're not getting told and this and that by our other departments. So this time I am in support of Richmond. We've got to get behind our county employees. And this is just a place, if we don't support our county employees, how many more is gonna wanna pull out because we don't have support? So, thank you.
Susie?
You know, excuse me, as I said 2 weeks ago, this is very unfortunate. I can see both sides, but I do not want to spend any taxpayer money to that means.
We've already spent taxpayer money toward it. Out of the attorney's office.
I think that, whichever way it goes, it's a lose-lose situation, and Bart, I don't mean that disrespectful to you, I'm just talking about the unfortunate set of circumstances that have placed this in front of us. So, we can continue to talk about it if you want to, but I don't think that there's any, I don't think there's any point to it. I don't think you're gonna bring up anything new that we're not already aware of. I guess the question would be, if we do this, is, determining where those funds come from. And how those funds would be paid, and if there's any restriction moving forward in the future, which I think also should be determined if the board decides to reimburse those funds. And the reason I asked that question is because Sheriff Richmond brought it up the last time we met, and he was not incorrect. There is a 299 rule, and however, this would be a reimbursement for expenses, so I think there might be some leeway in that regard. The other question would be whether or not we would receive or request, if we went in this direction, an invoice and a claims be submitted, an invoice, and it would be paid directly to an attorney rather than to Sheriff Richmond, of which then the attorney could reimburse Sheriff Richmond. So those are discussions that we have to have once we make a decision. But I think before the decision is made, that we need to ask ourselves, where do we take it out of? And I think I mean, because, and I'll just be hypothetically speaking here, so, well, if I take it out of Christie's budget, do I take it out of the ending fund balance? Do I mean, we do have to determine where it comes from. We take money and have an expenditure, it's, I do think it's incumbent to understand that somebody else may end up coming up on the short end of the stick. So, I'm asking if you are in favor of moving forward, ideas, thought process.
One of the first things I would like to know is if the county attorney has dropped the appeal of the judge's ruling. Are you aware of anything?
I'm not aware of anything, no.
Well, I would like to know, because that will weigh in on the decision too. So,
Well, I think
just not gonna find that out today, the way it sounds.
Right, and we're just, I believe, I don't, I mean, what is your thought process in that regard? In other words, I'm not trying to be a horse's for two here, but I think we have to decide today and move on from this. We don't have any jurisdiction or any control over whether the attorney's office does or does not drop the appeal, but we can make a decision in terms of, I'm looking for something here, so I apologize when I'm talking, in paperwork that I've got, but we can make the decision, and if you make a decision in favor of reimbursement, then you can put caveats on that decision saying that this is a one-time thing, that moving forward, we're not going to do anything. If there is an appeal, I mean, these are, so that all parties involved understand that. I don't know anything about an appeal process other than, I mean, I know that the law allows appeals, and goes to appellate court, and maybe ultimately it goes up to the upper echelon, but that's really, we have no jurisdiction in that. We can't force it. There's nothing we can do in that regard. And I don't think that it's fair to kick the can down the road. So, all I'm asking is that we make a decision, now.
Well, I was under the understanding that he was going to appeal, and if he isn't, my apologies to everyone.
Well, I'm not, I don't know whether he has or he hasn't. I'm not alluding to that question one way or the other. I don't know.
There has been a notice of appeal that was filed prior to our last meeting too, but I don't know where it stands right now.
Okay.
And I mean, if you would like, can you define for the dummies what a notice of appeal means? I mean, I got a rudimentary idea, but.
Right, so the notice of appeal basically that the county attorney is appealing the decision of the lower court that was issued here in Jefferson County. That will go up to the Supreme Court. They'll decide whether they hear it, whether the Iowa Court of Appeals hears it, but because it's a constitutional question, it would go to the Supreme Court if they choose to hear that appeal, but they can deny it also.
Any time frame, in other words, are we 6 months, 12 years, 3 days?
I don't know exactly how long it would take before they decided whether or not they were gonna hear that appeal. Certainly, like, briefs would have to be filed, there are steps that are involved, but I don't know what their timeline is in terms of deciding whether or not they're gonna hear it.
The only thing they would review, if I'm not mistaken, and I may be, is the trial court's decision. In other words, what I'm saying is there's no new evidence or anything can be presented, there's just briefs filed regarding.
It's a legal, it would be a legal determination, they're not gonna be looking at the facts. So, and I think that the specific question that I know the county attorney wanted to have clarity on was whether or not it's even a constitutional law currently as it stands.
Well, I've been out around in the public the last 2 weeks. I'm getting a lot of positive response to the way I feel about it. People thinks that we should help him out on this situation. It's very unfortunate it even happened, so.
Okay, so I infer from your comments, the direction that you would like for it to go. So, again, I go back to the question about, is this, moving forward, we won't revisit this issue again. And what I'm asking is that this is, if you wanna do this, your motion would be what, in terms of, any future contribution?
To pay his legal fees up to now, and there will be no more future legal fees. And if Chauncey pursues it, I'm gonna get shot. Take it out of his salary to pay Bart. Shoot me in the back, shoot me in the front.
Okay, so I will give you what I believe the public purpose would be. The public purpose would be, and probably should be included in your motion, is to restore the ability of the office of the sheriff
That's correct.
and the sheriff to perform all the duties and responsibilities of the office.
I'm not gonna get it
That's
back
fine.
that fast.
I'm just saying, but to provide and perform all the responsibilities and duties of the office for the benefit of the residents of Jefferson County.
You put it into good words, I get it all jumbled up.
Can I ask a question? Has Bart officially been removed from the Brady-Giglio list that he should have been removed from several weeks ago?
I'm so sorry, I do not know the answer to that question.
I would guess, and mind you, this is strictly a guess, but it would be an observation on my part in as much as there was a notice of appeal filed. Poor choice of words here, please forgive me, but it would be like a stay of execution. In other words, a temporary injunction. That would be my, pending the outcome of the appeal.
Technically, it's not over as of now,
Right.
but I will say, just for clarity's sake, and I know that it was discussed at our previous meeting, but I guess Brady-Giglio List, in that there was information disseminated by the county attorney to other law enforcement offices within the state about, placing Sheriff Richmond on the list and the reasons for doing so, but it's not like, there isn't a list online or in our office, it's.
But did you send, once he was deemed to be, that he shouldn't be on the list, did you immediately send out a note to all the people you sent the first note to?
I
That
did
said
send
that the
it.
judge ruled that he is no longer on the list?
I did not send it, so I don't know if the county attorney sent anything out.
Can I say something?
Yeah?
Okay. So, Joe, I hear you as a citizen, okay? And you say you talk to people in the community. Of course, I'm part of that community, okay? And, of course, I pay taxpayer dollars too. So, of course, I disagree with this, but if you have a list of all these people that you talk to, it should be presented as well. And
I
of
did
course,
not
in a
keep a
petition,
list, I just been out in public talking to people, and I've heard nothing negative. Everybody thinks we should use taxpayer dollars to support Bart. It's unfortunate it happened. If it had been anybody else, he would have used the county attorney's office for legal. And he couldn't do that in this case.
all I see is taxpayers' dollars. It increases all the time, every year,
I know
okay?
it does.
Every year, and eventually, it's gonna have to cap off with people moving out of the county. And this is one of the reasons why, right here. Unfortunately, it happened, but why should the community, the taxpayers, have to be the ones that's going to be, of course, penalized for it?
Why should he personally have to do it himself?
I've paid a lot of lawyers over my time, you know what, nobody else paid them, you know?
This is defending his office though.
I
his-
understand
His
that.
character, and it's public.
But again, my dollars, my taxpayer dollars,
I take that
every
into
year is gonna go
consideration.
up. And of course, like Lee said, you're gonna take it out of PERS, you're gonna take it out of, you're gonna take it out of the police department, where are you gonna take it? You're not gonna take it out of theirs, you're gonna penalize
I'm
somebody
gonna
else.
use
in
taxpayer
town.
dollars, my intentions.
Then we're gonna be the one penalized.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm okay with that, by the way. I am one of the people that's perfectly okay with that. I think it's the right thing to do.
I think we're paying taxpayers' dollars already to have Chauncey do this
Yeah,
tomorrow.
we did.
So we've already paid
Thank
it.
you.
Right.
We've already paid it.
We are those taxpayers, everybody in here.
Except for your county engineer.
I think that's why this room's full of people today in
And
support.
and online.
Yeah, there's a lot of people online today, so, thank you for your.
Can I say
opinion.
something? Yeah, I see this as it's not an individual. Bart, as sheriff, was attacked and put on this list. Now, if the county attorney did it to me, and I wanna do something, then I will do it. I have to pay for the attorney. But what's happened is, he's been put on the list, and therefore, it's kinda like, I've worked in medical. There's a list, an unspoken list of people that walk into the ER and want drugs. It's unspoken, okay? It's not an actual list, but there's a little book that everybody knows is there. And it's the same thing here. He's a public servant, he was attacked. Yes, it is taxpayers' money. But county attorneys had 2 weeks to present to you how much they spent on it. This bullshit, excuse my language, of saying they done it all on their personal time is a crock of shit. Okay? Plain and simple. Cause I've never yet seen a court open during off hours. Ever. So to do an appeal, you gotta do it. It's just like, I've had experience with attorneys. Every time I call in, they're always in court. They're always with the client, always. And I just called them out the one day. I said, well, it's kind of hard to be in court to the secretary when it's a holiday. So you see what I'm getting at? We've already spent taxpayers' money. Now, if the county attorney wants to come in here and say, how much money we spent on this, that's fine. But he hasn't done that, and he's had ample time. And you're exactly right. Anytime there's appeal, his name's still on the list, because the case is not closed until it makes it to wherever it has to make it to.
Okay,
I'll
so,
say just one thing real quick, I'll keep it to a minute. I don't wanna pick up the past, but if we go to the 1990s, there was a frivolous lawsuit against county supervisor. And it was against one of the county supervisors here in Jefferson County. And the Jefferson County government came to his defense and covered all of his legal fees. And the whole thing was, I'm not saying that this one with Chauncey, whatever, is frivolous, but it was totally frivolous then, and they were completely exonerated, and they paid everything. And I'll go into detail, I don't wanna pick it up here, but I'll go into details, because I was part of it.
no, and I understand what you're saying. The circumstance there would be that the supervisor of the county had a duty to defend, because the supervisor was the defendant. In this particular instance, the sheriff was the plaintiff. He's the one that filed, albeit to restore his ability to perform his duties and responsibilities of the office. I don't dispute any of that. But just for the sake of clarification.
Well, this guy was attacked, and he defended himself, and in the defense of it, he had to
Right.
incur expenses.
Okay,
Just throw it out there, just drop it.
I don't know if you want a response. We discussed this at our previous meeting because our county treasurer was sued and he was named in a lawsuit as the defendant, and in his official capacity, the county was sued, the county had a duty to defend him as the defendant. Again, Sheriff Richmond is the plaintiff instead of the defendant.
But he's only a plaintiff because of the action of the county attorney. You've gotta remember that.
Well,
There's a big difference.
Huge difference.
Huge difference. He's only because the county attorney chose to put him on the list. Everybody in this room, and if you don't, everybody in this room knows that it is a personal vendetta. It has nothing to do with anything else.
okay, so we need to move forward here. Technically, the stay is probably the wrong term. But we have no way of knowing, I think legally, correct me here, but if there's no appeal bond, then he would have to follow through with the actions of the court, and I'm not saying that he had the determination of the court. I'm not saying he hasn't. I don't have the answer to that, but it's not pertinent to what we're discussing here today. It may be something that we all feel needs to be done, but that doesn't, we need to redirect our focus back on the question, on the item that's on the agenda.
Lee, one more thing. I do feel it's a hindrance if you cap it, that it's not going to stop the county attorney. That if you leave it open, then he may take it into account and withdraw his appeal. But if you cap it and he knows he's not gonna have to face this again, I think you leave that open for Bart to be a victim.
Lee, why is nobody addressing the elephant in the room? If it goes to the Supreme Court and the judgment stays the same, why would it not come out of the county attorney's budget and no one else's?
Well, I think that at this point in time, that's an excellent question, but I'm going back to the specific question at hand, which is whether to reimburse the current legal fees. The appeals process is coming out of the county attorney's budget, at least up to this point. I don't know where you're at, and it's not my place to ask or in terms of that process. We're just specifically addressing the question that Bart brought before us 2 weeks ago, which was the $40,000. So, are you making a motion to reimburse the expended attorney fees in the amount of $40,000? Is that right?
Slightly higher than that.
Well, give me a number.
$40,932.
Okay.
Do that exactly, yes.
Can we stop the county attorney from spending taxpayer dollars from this point on?
The answer to that question is no, not in terms of, the budget has been submitted and certified a year ago, and once those funds are provided or appropriated, how they spend those funds is outside our jurisdiction unless they come back to us and ask for more money. And at that point, we can say, no, we're not going to appropriate more funds. As an elected official, any elected official, in the case of Bart, for example, the same scenario applies. So, the answer to that is no. However, I would state that since the current budgets are not approved and the money has not been appropriated up to this point, that's a different, that question would still be open to the board to make a decision as far as how much money they would appropriate to each department going into the next fiscal year. But for this current fiscal year that we're in, the remaining 3 months of it is, no, we have no jurisdiction over what he does. As long as he doesn't exceed the amount that was appropriated, he needs more money.
I know you wanna make a decision today, but at the same time, as stated before, you yourself said this could go to the Supreme Court. His deal isn't over yet, so how can you say, we're not gonna pay you today without knowing the final decisions?
Well, I can answer that question, because this is a very difficult decision for me to make anyway, because I can see both sides of the equation. I'm not willing, personally, to look at an unknown quantity. I can't do that. And the reason I can't do that is because we just talked this morning about not filling a position out at the roads department. This could potentially, and I don't have any numbers, so don't misunderstand, I'm just giving examples. But what if it goes to 100,000? Where am I supposed to get it? Out of your budget? Okay, does that cost the deputy his job or her job? These are questions that, you know, those are not hypotheticals. If we were to have to find $100,000 somewhere, that is a difficult search to have. And so when I'm talking about specifically the request that he made 2 weeks ago, which is what's on the agenda, and that's what we're here to address. Again, not trying to be obstinate or horses for two, but you specifically asked a question which is on the agenda. I can't look at the abstract because at that point in time, you know, I don't know, you and I have had that discussion, actually, where would it end up? And, you know, at this point, we don't know. And evidently, County Attorney Moline feels strongly enough about this, whether I agree or disagree, you know, to move forward with it. I can't stop it. I wish that I could, but I can't.
So, one more quick question. Joe stated that the county attorney wanted to talk to you individually. Have the other two supervisors talked to the county attorney individually?
I had not, no.
I have talked to him on the phone all the time.
Concerning this matter.
But at our meeting 2 weeks ago, you had not talked to him since I had been in the office.
Yes, Joe, and afterwards I said I was wrong.
Because he
I
tried to
hadn't- I'm
correct
still
you.
talking, Joe,
I'm sorry.
because I hadn't gotten, I thought you meant, did you go into the office? No, I did not, but I do talk to him all the time.
Specifically about this subject, just for,
Yes.
clarify the record, no, I have not spoken to the county attorney about this subject. On another matter via email, we communicated, but not about this subject. Okay, let's get back to answering the question. It's time. Are you making a motion?
I will make the motion that we reimburse Bart for the legal fees of $40,932 when he presents invoices. So we have a record of that.
I would like to amend your motion if I could to take it out of funds in the beginning of the next fiscal year.
I'll second that then.
You understand where I'm going with that, Bart? Okay, because we are, we have less flexibility in the remainder of this fiscal year. We don't have a lot of flexibility going into the next fiscal year, but we have a little bit more. We can have some conversations. Specifically to determine where it comes out of. So we have a motion, on the table.
I opened my mouth.
Oh, okay.
Go on ahead and read it, then I'll address it.
No, I'm just gonna say we have a motion on the table to appropriate $40,932 in the reimbursement of legal fees. And I'm going to add to that, to restore the ability of the office of the sheriff and the sheriff to provide and to perform all of the duties and responsibilities of the office to the residents of Jefferson County. Right?
Yep.
Okay, I will second that motion, and then I want a roll call vote, Abby. So any further discussion? Okay. You call the vote, that's what you're supposed to do.
Okay. Susie,
No, there's no statute that authorizes payment of these fees under the current law.
Joe,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes. All right, we will have line item to take this out of. At this point, Bart, I would ask that, you would make some arrangements with your legal counsel to get us an invoice. Because I do believe that that the payment needs to be made directly in that regard, and then have whatever arrangements you make with your legal counsel. And I don't disagree with Susie's assessment as far as the statute, but I believe that the Supreme Court is very clear on how they define public purpose, and so. Okay. Number 2 on the agenda, even though we've gone through like 5 or 6 things, it is actually numerically speaking number 2, to discuss and consider the MOU with Jefferson County Conservation, which is what's showing.
I wanna thank everybody for showing up this morning.
Thank you.
Let me know what you think in the comments below on this platform. It's right below. Comment. Let me know what you decided. And thank you for watching. I want to thank our sponsors, Griner Auto Body, Car Doctor, McDonald Boneyard, Hinshaw Trailer Sales, Girling Repair, B&B Propane and the family of Jet Stops, the Dutch Market, and Coffee Talk. I'm your host, John Bain. Stay friendly, Southeast Iowa.